Chapter 1: Earth's Last Farewell. In the nexus of a humming laboratory, where the air buzzed with the electric whispers of progress and innovation, the International Space Exploration Agency was a hive of activity. The scent of ozone hung around buzzing consoles. Screens flickered with data as the finest minds of a generation toiled over their creation. The Phoenix rover, mankind's next leap towards the stars. The lab was a symphony of silver and blue, a place where dreams of red soil and alien skies were crafted. Technicians in white coats moved with deliberate urgency, their hands dancing over keyboards and instruments. Every surface was pristine, sterile, save for the accidental scuttles of Milton, the mouse with fur like night's own velvet. Milton, small and unassuming, with eyes like twin beads of jet, had the run of the lab after sundown. His nimble form slipped through cracks and crevices, a shadow against the sterile environment. His nose was a constant twitch, deciphering the secrets hidden within the sterility, the aroma of a discarded cheese sandwich, the tangy allure of an apple core. On the eve of the Phoenix's departure, the lab was a frenzy. Engineers checked and double-checked systems, running through protocols with hushed tones. Amidst the sea of legs and the forest of cables, Milton was an unnoticed spectator. His ears flicked to the rhythm of the lab, the hums, the beeps, the soft patting of shoes on the cold floor. A mistake made in the frenzy of preparation left the life support unit storage ajar. Like a siren's call, it beckoned Milton. With whiskers quivering in excitement, he entered the compartment, unknowingly sealing his fate as an interplanetary stowaway. The life support unit was a cavern of wonder to Milton's eyes, with walls of gentle blue light and strange devices that beeped and blinked. The unit's purpose was beyond his understanding, but the comfort of warmth and the allure of exploration were intoxicating. Hours before dawn, the lab quieted. The engineers had left, confident in their work, unaware of the tiny life dozing within their masterpiece. Milton nestled among the cables, his tiny chest rising and falling in sleep, while stars twinkled outside, indifferent to the drama unfolding beneath them. As the countdown commenced, a voice boomed, its timbre vibrating through the lab's walls. Milton awoke with a start. The unit he was in vibrated with a primal energy, a growl that escalated to a roar as the Phoenix rover embarked on its journey. The launch was a marvel, a testament to human will. The Phoenix rose, carrying hopes, dreams, and one very bewildered mouse. Milton felt the world drop away, his stomach tumbling in a dance with gravity. He was pressed into the fabric of his accidental cradle, the force spinning him with an invisible weight. As the earth became a memory, Milton's little heart hammered against his chest, a drum beat of survival and accidental adventure. He had become the smallest astronaut, a pioneer on a journey not of his choosing, whisked away from the familiar lab smells to the sterile expanse of space. The hum of the rover's systems was a lullaby to the chaos of launch. As tranquility enveloped him, Milton closed his eyes. What awaited him was beyond any mouse's dream. A new world, stark and beautiful in its desolation. Earth's last farewell was a silent whisper, but for Milton, the Martian mouse, it was the overture to an epic voyage of survival and wonder. Chapter 2: An Accidental Odyssey. Milton's new world was a chamber of flashing lights and humming machinery, a stark contrast to the dark, quiet nooks of his old home. As the Phoenix rover rattled through the stratosphere, the cacophony of launch settled into a rhythmic purr that reverberated through the metal walls and into Milton's very bones. The life support compartment was no longer a playground but a capsule of necessity, a bubble of earthly normality in the vastness of space. Milton, with his sleek, grey fur now matted from his anxious grooming, huddled against the hum of the life system, its gentle vibrations a cold comfort against the creeping chill of space. His tiny paws skittered across the smooth surfaces, his movements cautious and tentative. The lights blinked in a steady pattern, illuminating his path in intervals. His nose, ever curious, sniffed at the sterile air, picking up the scent of recycled water and packaged nutrition far from the savory tastes of the lab's leftovers. As the Phoenix broke free from Earth's grip, Milton felt a curious sensation, weightlessness. His little limbs flailed, a natural instinct to grasp onto something, anything. But there was nothing, only the air, which had become as thin as a whisper. His eyes, wide with a mix of fear and wonder, reflected the artificial stars blinking on the control panels. In this new science, where the thrumming of the engines was a distant memory, Milton's ears strained for any sound. The quiet was pervasive, enveloping him in a blanket of solitude. He was truly alone, a single heartbeat in the void. The rover's internal cameras, meant to monitor equipment function, occasionally swept over him, oblivious to his presence. Milton, in his unwitting game of hide and seek, managed to evade their electronic gaze, his dark coat blending with the shadows. Days melded into nights, a concept made meaningless without the rise and fall of the sun. Milton's routine became a dance of survival, scrounging for crumbs of astronaut fare and sips from the condensation on the walls. His world, once the size of a lab, had shrunk to the confines of the rover. As the red planet approached, a tremor of anticipation ran through the vessel. Milton, sensing the change, braced himself against the life support unit. The landing was a tumultuous affair. The Phoenix shook violently, jostling Milton from his makeshift nest. The screech of metal and the roar of rockets filled the compartment as the rover made its fiery descent through the Martian atmosphere. With a shudder that ran through the chassis of the Phoenix, the rover touched down on Martian soil. Milton, stunned by the ordeal, lay sprawled across the life support system, his tiny chest heaving. As the dust settled and the engines cooled, an eerie calm fell. Milton peered out from his hideaway, his black eyes reflecting a sliver of Mars seen through the rover's window, a desert of crimson and ochre, a silent, sprawling landscape waiting to be explored. In that moment, as the Phoenix powered down to a standby mode, Milton realized the truth of his journey. There was no return to the lab, no familiar dark corners to scurry into, no more careless scraps left by busy scientists. He was now Milton, the mouse that had ventured where no other of his kind had before, an accidental astronaut on the surface of a world that awaited his tiny, unknowing exploration. Chapter 3: A Red Kingdom. The Martian dawn broke, casting a copper light through the Phoenix's windows. Milton stirred from his slumber, his tiny body stiff from the cold Martian night. As the rover began to wake from its sleep mode, the solar panels unfurled with a soft whir, capturing the sun's distant rays. Within the rover, Milton's new day commenced. The compartment that had once felt confining was now his sanctuary. He paced the perimeters of his metallic domain, the familiar pitter-patter of his tiny feet echoing off the walls. His eyes, adjusting to the artificial light that simulated the Earth's diurnal rhythm, were alert for any change, any sign of the life he once knew. Milton's coat, once a pristine gray, had taken on the hue of the red dust that was now his constant companion. The dust had a way of infiltrating even the tiniest of spaces, a fine film that coated his fur and made each grooming session a battle against the persistent grains. The rover was a maze of equipment and storage, and Milton had learned to navigate it with a cautious grace. His whiskers, sensitive to the slightest change in the air, helped him maneuver around obstacles, avoid delicate instruments, and scavenge for sustenance. He had grown adept at tapping into the sealed packets of food stored for biological experiments, extracting just enough to sustain himself without triggering a weight discrepancy. As the rover began its daily tasks, Milton found himself drawn to the view outside. The windows, designed for the robot's cameras, provided him with a panoramic view of his alien surroundings. Mars stretched before him, a canvas of rust and tan, with dunes that rippled away to the horizon under a pale sky. The landscape was beautiful in its desolation, a stark contrast to the greens and blues of Earth. The silence of Mars was profound. Even inside the rover, Milton felt its presence, a constant reminder that he was an interloper in this world. The rover was programmed to conduct experiments, to analyze soil samples and search for signs of water. As it trundled across the Martian surface, Milton clung to the shadows, a silent observer of the mission. The robotic arms extended, scooping up soil, the machinery whirring and clicking in a symphony of scientific pursuit. Milton watched, his head cocked to one side, curiosity gleaming in his eyes. One day, as Milton explored the edge of a console, his paw accidentally brushed against a switch. The touch was light, but the effect was immediate. A signal, unintended by the tiny stowaway, was sent. On Earth, the data received caused a stir of excitement. The scientists were baffled, their screens displaying readings that hinted at an anomaly on board. Meanwhile, Milton continued his explorations, oblivious to the stir he had caused millions of miles away. He had grown accustomed to the rover's daily rhythms, the cycles of power as predictable as the rising and falling of the suns of his memory. His life had settled into a routine, one that was governed by the mechanics of human ingenuity and the unyielding laws of survival. The Red Planet was his kingdom now, a domain ruled by the smallest of monarchs. It was a realm of dust and quiet, where the only footprints to be found were those left by the wheels of the Phoenix and, if one looked closely enough, the delicate impressions of a tiny mouse's paws. Chapter 4: The Whispering Sands. As weeks melded into months, the harsh Martian environment began to take its toll on the rover. The Phoenix, though built for durability, was not impervious to the whims of the Red Planet. Its metallic body bore scars from sandstorms, and its systems occasionally faltered under the strain of continuous operation. Milton, in his own way, adapted to the cycles of Martian life. His fur, now fully infused with the ubiquitous red dust, provided him camouflage against the rover's interior, a small but significant advantage in this alien world. During the Martian days, or sols as they were known, the rover would hum to life, solar panels drinking in the weak sunlight. Milton had learned to bask in the warm glow that filtered in, lying sprawled next to the battery packs that radiated a comforting heat. The rover's movements, once a source of trepidation for Milton, had become signals for action. He would watch intently as the mechanical arms collected samples, their precision a dance of science choreographed by distant humans. With each new drill into the Martian soil, Milton would peer out with a mix of apprehension and fascination. Every new rock core examined was a revelation, not just to the scientists back on Earth, but to the inquisitive mouse whose journey had been an accident of fate. One evening, as the sun dipped below the Martian horizon, casting elongated shadows across the dusty expanse, a fault in the rover's thermal regulation system caused the temperature within to plummet. The cold was an entity unto itself, creeping into every corner, seeping into Milton's bones. He shivered, his whiskers frosted with tiny crystals, his breath a white mist in the frigid air. Huddling closer to the lifeless battery packs, Milton conserved his warmth by curling into a tight ball, his heart rate slowing, his breaths shallow and measured. In this frozen stillness, a stark realization dawned on him. He was utterly alone. There were no fellow creatures to huddle with for warmth, no soft nesting materials to burrow into, just the cold, unyielding surfaces of the rover. The nights were an exercise in endurance, but with each passing dawn, as the solar panels soaked up light and the rover warmed, Milton emerged from his nightly ordeal with a renewed sense of determination. He was a creature of the Earth, yet he was surviving on Mars, a testament to life's tenacity. Milton's days were punctuated by the rover's routine transmissions to Earth. He would listen to the faint crackle of data being sent across the void, a whisper of connection to a home now so distant. At times, he would place his paw upon the communication panels, as though trying to reach out across the cosmos, yearning for the touch of another living being. Then, during one such transmission, an anomaly, a small shadow that flickered briefly on the camera's edge. Back on Earth, it stirred a flurry of excitement and debate. Could there be life on Mars? The shadow was fleeting, but it was enough to ignite imaginations and wonder. For Milton, these moments were not about making history or advancing science. They were about the small comforts, the light that warmed his fur, the soft hum of the rover that had become his lullaby. He moved through the Phoenix with a quiet dignity, a king in a land of dust and shadows, a solitary figure against the backdrop of an ancient and indifferent world. Chapter 5: Echoes of Home. As the Martian year waned, the Phoenix had become a weathered sentinel upon the Ochre Plains. Its solar panels, dulled by dust, struggled to glean energy from the weak sunlight that filtered through the thin atmosphere. Milton, ever resilient, had grown accustomed to the ebb and flow of power within his mechanical home. The compartment which served as his refuge was etched with the signs of his presence. Nooks bore the soft indentations of his rest, and the air held the faint scent of his being, a musky reminder of Earth's biology. His coat, once glossy gray, was now a muted tapestry of Martian hues, giving him an ethereal appearance, like a phantom of both worlds. Milton's routine was marked by the rover's solar cycles. During the day, he would scamper along the conduits, nimble and light-footed, pausing often to survey his kingdom through the windows. He would press his small body against the glass, gazing out at the sprawling dunes, watching as dust devils danced in the distance, their swirling forms like wraiths upon the barren landscape. His ears had become attuned to the soft whirs and clicks of the rover's instruments. Each sound was a voice, a whisper of the mechanical beast that had become his unlikely companion. He moved in harmony with these sounds, his own heart beat a quiet counter-rhythm. One day, a minor tremor shook the ground, a common occurrence on this geologically active planet. Milton, feeling the vibrations through the soles of his feet, froze. His whiskers quivered, tasting the air for signs of change. As pebbles danced across the solar panels outside, a new sound pierced the usual silence, a creak of stress upon metal. The tremor had unsettled something within the rover's structure. With a curious tilt of his head, Milton approached the source. A small breach had formed, a crack that allowed the raw Martian atmosphere to seep in. He could sense the outside air, colder and less inviting than the recycled breath of the Phoenix. It was a stark reminder of the hostility that lay beyond his sheltered existence. Days passed, and the breach became a part of life. The rover's heaters labored against the intrusion, creating pockets of warmth that Milton gravitated towards. He would nestle against the humming machinery, finding solace in the heat that spoke of a life force within the metal shell. The Phoenix continued its mission, its sensors probing the environment, its cameras capturing the desolation. Milton continued to evade these mechanical eyes, a specter unseen but very much a part of the mission now. Back on Earth, the mission team had grown concerned about the anomalous readings and the unexplained shadow. Discussions were rife with speculation, but the general consensus was that a follow-up mission was needed. The Phoenix had paved the way, but it was time for human eyes to see Mars up close. As the Earth team planned, Milton continued his solitary existence, each day a repeat of the one before, yet each day a triumph. He had come to know the Phoenix not just as a habitat but as a companion. Its steady heartbeat of beeps and clicks was the soundtrack to his life. The final sol arrived with little fanfare. The mission had run its course, the rover's energy reserves dwindling to a critical level. Milton sat by the window, his breath fogging the glass, as the sun set for the last time on the Phoenix. His eyes held a contemplative gaze, reflecting a world that was both his greatest challenge and his greatest adventure. Milton's legacy would not be footprints on the Martian soil or flags planted in the ground, but a quiet testament to the resilience of life. As the Phoenix powered down, its systems falling silent one by one, Milton nestled into his favorite corner, wrapped in the warmth of his memories. The stars came out, a tapestry of light against the endless dark, and for a moment, it felt like Earth. The cool, silent embrace of the Martian night closed in, and Milton, the littlest astronaut, closed his eyes, his chest rising and falling in the steady rhythm of sleep, a living echo of home amidst the whispering sands. Thank you for watching. To stay up to date on our future videos, please subscribe and hit the notification bell, and let us know what you think in the comments below.